All right. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Hey, Peter. Good morning.
I'm excited. It's Monday. We've got so many great things working. Maceo and I were exchanging emails with clients over the weekend, trying to get things over the line for new clients, for renewals. So plenty of activity on our side. But I want to give you an update on the tortilla chips with my wife. So
Nice.
I think I shared last week, my wife gave up tortilla chips for Lent, and the group had brought up a very good point. If it was just tortilla chips and or tortillas, and against better judgment, I actually brought that question up to my wife, and she said, "Well, it's just chips because chips are crunchy, and that's really what she's giving up is the crunch of the chip."
Okay.
So she also does not eat any other chips. It's not just tortilla chips, but it's like Pringles are out. Anything else? Not that my wife would eat Pringles. She doesn't even know what those are. But you know what I mean? Like she's not eating
Doritos.
any kind of chip. Chips are out. So, anyways, just wanted to clarify that for anyone else that gave something out for Lent. I also apparently gave up tortilla chips unknowingly. But, anyways, we've got a great week ahead of us. And last week, let's just recap. We had Devin Saavedra start with us, and Devin, I hope you're listening to this. I actually just met with him. He's got, his inbox is full of things to get done already, which is great. So he's gonna be helping out with some of the administrative stuff as well as getting to the prospecting in. But we had a barbecue last week, and actually, you had set it up, and so just want to say thank you for that. But I'd like to kind of talk about that and then what we have coming up this week too.
Yeah. So it's fantastic having Devin in town last week. If we could bottle his positive attitude and sell that instead of assurance, or maybe in complement to our insurance, we do very well in that line of business. But it's fantastic having him in. Typically, when new people come in, we'll do something like and we'll extend a welcome lunch out to the team and for our local team members that will attend. But what we did last week with Devin was something that actually we did when a couple of our people had started a very long time ago, 10, 12 years ago. And some of our Minnesota team came out is we would have them over to our house for a dinner. But we've gotten away from that just over the years. I'm not quite sure why, but thought it would be a good time to bring that back. And just I've chatted with several people who were attending. And so what happened was I think we have 9 producers that are local in San Diego. And we had 6 able to attend the barbecue, and then also had our operations team attend as well. So it's very low key. We were fortunate for great weather this past couple weeks in San Diego,
Mhm.
or really great weather, I should say, in the past few weeks. So had people over to my house. We had Cardiff Crack, which most people in San Diego are familiar with.
I know.
Seaside Markets delicacy,
Mhm.
and made some guacamole, which seemed to be well received by the empty bowl, or maybe they didn't like the other food.
There was two empty bowls. We had two bowls of guacamole. They were gone.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Straight.
But what was great about it was just the conversation that we had. So it was just, in some people, like Bill Leversey, Dara Bayless, I've known for almost 30 years, which is crazy. Um, and then it was just a way for people to gather around a meal of food and share some laughs, share some stories, and ended up being a great evening. So something that we'll for sure continue to do going forward. And it was a fun way to bring Devin into the fold. I know he probably got some stories that were maybe a little too much for day one of his new deal. But I think overall, just a great way to welcome him in, and then also just pause and have an evening to enjoy each other's company and the relationships that we've developed over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as we continue to grow, I think like having the ability to continue, I think having those like smaller groups and all that will continue too. So, but yeah, very much an awesome thing. And yeah, going to this week, I mean, what a great way to kind of obviously hit the ground running and feel, confident in the people around you. Like, again, to your point, talking to having the producers there to talk with or yourself and just I don't know, asking questions or just seeing kind of the life, right? Like what does it actually take and hearing some of those kind of I wouldn't say war stories necessarily, but the experience, right? It kind of comes through to you. And I've always I've shared this and I think it resonates more with me than anyone else. But one of the reasons I chose to work at Falcon West and that the reason that I share with a lot of people is when you're choosing where you want to be for a career for the next, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however far you want to plan ahead, looking around the locker room of the people that you're going to be playing the game with. And I think this is a great team to be on. So that was a good reminder of it. So anyways, you've got some travels coming up, but I think there's more to just traveling involved in this, because I know we've been working on making some introductions to some folks that I know out in the Texas area, or kind of surrounding. So wanted to kind of turn it over to you to share one of the benefits, I think, of working in a brokerage.
Yeah, 100%. And I would kind of characterize this as, and part of the reason that we've doing this podcast is to share, who is Falcon West? What are we about? And then also what the insurance industry is about. And for me, one of the things that I very much like about it is it's relationship basis. So, but also within that relationship is, how do you want to do it? So you have to be very entrepreneurial, whether you're the agency owner or whether you're have your book of business, or even whether you're an account manager. You're responsible for building your own book, your own brand within that on it. And so one of the things that I very much enjoy is if I'm traveling anywhere, and I love travel. Have come from a long line of airline people. My grandfather flew for Northwest Airlines in the 1930s, when it was really kind of the infancy of aviation. Several uncles and aunts that were pilots, flight attendants. And so a long aviation line. And to me, every time I get on an airplane, like, I'm amazed that you can, spend a little bit of time and you end up, in another part of the world. To me, just kind of boggles my mind. So this week, kind of fun in that my son has his spring break coming up and has a lacrosse tournament. And it'll be a great time. It's a nice group of families that travel with us. He's got a great program that he's a part of, the Torrey Pines Lacrosse. But anytime I'm going to go somewhere, in this case, we're going to be in Dallas, I look to see who can I visit in Dallas, or who would be a good person to reach out to in Dallas. So this week, we'll be meeting with some of the leadership at USA Rugby, which we've done a lot of work with over the past 2 years with our internship program. He's promised me a good barbecue meal, so I'm excited for that. And then we're meeting with an agency, a broker that we've worked with on some deals, but have yet to meet face to face. And then also meeting with a prospect, so potential prospect, as well as someone that we're looking to collaborate more with in the future. So
Yeah.
again, quite excited for that, because these are meetings that, I wouldn't necessarily normally fly out just to see those people. But again, with this visit that I have, my perspective then is okay, who else can I reach out to while I'm out there, and have a breakfast, or have a coffee, have a lunch, and just, again, get to know people a little better. At the end of the day, that's what insurance is developing those relationships and finding out not just how someone can help you. That's really the wrong attitude to go into those meetings with, but more, what are they up to and what are they doing, and how can we work together so we both succeed. So super excited about the ability to do that, the ability to jump on a plane, be in a different city, get a little bit of different food, and just looking forward to the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons I even like doing like podcasts or talking to people on the phone is like just getting to know people. I don't know. It's so interesting to see what other people do in other parts of the world. And even if you consider Texas another part of the world, which in a sense, like, yeah, it's a little bit different, but honestly, it's so cool. Like, I don't know. I think Texas is the next place where Falcon West opens an office someday, Mike. Like, be honest with you, there's some good barbecue there, right? Anyways, all good there, and very true. And it is fun too with the position that we're in, talking to people all over the place. I mean, there's probably not a state that I have that I would visit, like, that I can't call somebody up and be like, hey, I'll be there, right? I'm coming to your town. Where should I go? Like, even just figuring out, like, okay, I'm there for one night. Where should I go for dinner, right? It's kind of fun. When I was in Oklahoma City, I was Oklahoma City. This was like back in last time I went. I had like so many recommendations on where to go. I couldn't even like keep up with it. But now it's like my favorite town because I know all the cool spots where all the locals hang out. So, anyways, a lot of fun there. And great. Well, we'll move over abruptly, albeit, to our next kind of topic here, which is the fact that we're I should say we, but there's you're running the company, and then obviously brokers, we're always learning something, right? But as a brokerage leader, right, I'd imagine that it still continues. It's not something that like, oh, I've made it, I'm now help run the company, whatever. Like everyone's learning every day. It doesn't matter what position you're in. We're all pulling the same weight to kind of figure things out. But there's one learning experience in particular that you brought up to me that sort of, I don't know, it's a high stakes game. It's in some of these situations, and so I was going to turn it over and hear kind of about that.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll share a story about a client, and this was a very expensive mistake that could have been 10x more expensive. So first off, to start off, to just tell people, so we work with customers on both direct bill and agency bill. And direct bill means the carrier, so Chubb, Hartford, whomever, will bill the customer. They handle all the billing, they handle the collections, they handle all things related to billing, and that's great for us because it's manpower that we don't have to assign to an account, and then we get paid a commission by that carrier for that policy that was sold. So Chubb collects the money from the client and then remits commissions back to us. That's direct bill. Nice, clean. There's a lot of carriers that won't work on a direct bill basis, and so that becomes agency bill, meaning that we're the ones that have to bill that policy. So we take over the full accounting function of invoicing, sending it out, collecting, and then remitting the premiums back to the carrier is how agency bill works. So the main difference between the two, though, is the responsibility with that, in that when we tell a carrier to put coverage in place, and it's in direct bill policy, then the carrier will then bill the client, collect the premiums, and do all those steps that I talked about. If the client doesn't pay that policy, or only pays partial, carrier will issue notice of cancellation. Carrier will cancel the policy, and they'll cancel it to the date that that the client either had paid to. So again, we're absolved of any risk in that scenario. So not true with agency bill though. So so that's why our policy as a company is we have to have the money in hand before we tell the carrier to issue that policy and buy that policy. Especially important for new business, and that's kind of standard operating procedure 101. If we've gotten too close to that renewal date or that effective date, then it's up to the broker, and the broker makes the decision of, hey, are we going to bind coverage without having money in hand? And we allow our brokers to do that, but with the knowledge that they're on the hook for that premium if the client does not pay. And with some of those agency bill carriers, it's not just, oh, you told us to bind coverage, and a week later the client said they weren't going to pay for it. Those carriers will put something in like a minimum earned premium, and some of them say, hey, if you tell us to bill day one, you're on the hook for 365 days for that next year on it. So it could be a very big financial risk that you have on stuff. So that's the background. Does that all hopefully make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, no, that you crystallized it for me. I've heard it a few times, but that's a great way to kind of summarize it.
Okay, perfect. Imagine 15 years ago, I was working with a client in Las Vegas. So we were introduced to them. They were doing something called a special purpose acquisition vehicle, or SPAC. And what that effectively means is you have an existing shell company that's publicly traded, you have an existing business, and those two merge, and now you have a publicly traded company. And in 2010 timeframe, people were doing this more commonly. We had worked with a couple companies that were doing this. The law firm that had put those together was working on a new client. They liked the work we did on the insurance side of understanding what they were doing and getting the right coverage in place. So they recommended us to this company in Las Vegas that was manufacturing ATV type vehicles. We worked with this account. We worked with them for probably 4 years, had great relationships, would visit them multiple times a year, work closely with the CEO, the CFO. They were growing the company, and it had grown into a very large account for myself and our agency. Everything's going great. They had typically would pay, and so again, they're an existing account of ours. So I felt comfortable when we had the renewal come up where they said, hey, Mike, we're not going to get you the money right beforehand. We're just closing on this financing round. And we have a whole bunch of other expenses come in. We want to try and limit our outflow right now for this month. Is it okay if we pay you next month? Again, we'd worked with them for a long time. I knew the risk, and I said, sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
And made plans that they would pay us in 2 weeks. It was a substantial amount of money, and we told the carriers, let's get coverage in place. Let's renew the coverages that they have. And there were 3 policies that were agency billed. It was the general liability and their product liability coverage, and then the excess coverage that they had over that. And they had 2 layers of excess, which will come into play later in this story. So we told all those 3 carriers to renew coverage. We sent out the certificates of insurance. All their customers know that they have coverage in place. Everything's great. Next week goes by, and I reach out to them and say, hey, just touching base, want to make sure that you guys are sending the checks out next week, because I knew the clock was ticking, and it was effectively Mike's money on the line. And so they said, yep. Just need, another week. Everything's going the good as planned. So another week comes by, and they come back and say, hey, got to push this out another 2 weeks. We're real sorry. We're just trying to limit what our outflows are here. We're working, and I knew the owner. We'd actually done some insurance. So it's the CEO, CFO, and then their main investor was a person that we'd done some work with as well. So, and I knew he was a very financially successful person, had all the means to pay. So again, wasn't worried on it. Wasn't overly worried, a little bit worried, not overly worried. And said, okay, no problem. Plus, we were already 2 weeks in, so we didn't really have any leverage to be like, hey, your coverage is going to cancel if you don't pay, because they knew it was already had been renewed. So another 2 weeks go by. Mike's sleeplessness is going up. As they're, hey, Mike, we just need a little more time. They're great communicators and all this.
They didn't ghost you. They're still they're still talking to you through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Story communication. The finance guy's extremely apologetic, saying, hey, man, like, you're in line with everyone here, which didn't make me feel that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, great communication, and just, hey, they're just in, you'd even get kind of the insider complaints of like, man, the investor is he told us this. He's like, I'm frustrated, kind of making me feel like I'm in the same boat as them, which
Sure.
to some degree I was.
Right.
And so it goes on and on. So now we're in our 5th week of coverage, no payment. And it's not good. And so now we got to kind of play a little bit of hardball of like, hey, like, this can't go on any longer. Like, we need to get paid. You need to get paid something here. Otherwise we have to cancel coverages. And so they're like, no, you're going to pay. And then fast forward to the end of the week, and they call me up and like, hey, Mike, we're closing the doors. Like, we just got the word that they're not putting any more money in. Our business is done. And they had, I think, 120 some employees, big offices, manufacturing, all this stuff. And again, I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting, hey, let's push it out a little more. Let's adjust this or let's do that. But I wasn't expecting like, hey, like, we told everyone to go home today, and we're not giving, there's no severance, there's nothing. We pulled the plug on it. So obviously, is just a human. These are people that I had worked for a while with. I really liked them. Again, had shared meals with them, spent a good amount of time with them, had watched them, grow this business from startup to where they were today. And so my first thought is like, wow, I'm floored. Feel terrible for you guys. Like, what can we do? How can we help? Just trying to help a friend who is obviously in a very bad spot. But after we got off the call, and then I was like, ooh, like, we're gonna have to call these carriers and be like, hey, the coverage we put in place 6 weeks ago is no longer needed. So we had worked with the same, and I still work with this broker to this day. Probably one of the finest brokers that I've had the pleasure of working with. So call him up, and he's in the same boat as me, as understanding like, oh man, this is terrible. Like, I can't believe it. Can't believe what happened to these guys.
Yeah.
He'd worked with them from the beginning. We'd fought to get them coverage placed. We'd fought to get them good terms. We've had a couple claims with them over the years, fought through renewals, fought through audits. Just he knew this account very, very well. But he's also like, whoa, shit, Mike, like, these are all 100% minimum burn policies. We're talking like $250 grand potentially as premium on the line. And it's one of those calls where it's just I don't know what to say. Like, yes, I understand. Yes.
And there's no insurance that we carry for that. It's just because it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's like this is just it's a business problem at this point.
Yeah.
Not an insurance issue.
And contractually,
Yep.
we found coverage. We said, this, and he's like, all fight here on this. And again, that's where I kind of just put my in his hands of like, you got to help out here, dude. We've worked together for a long time. Like, I don't know, like, does this mean like, like, are we declaring bankruptcy now? Like, are they taking us down?
Right.
And then he's like, okay, well, let's look at the policies. So we looked at the policies, and I think two of the three, I should research my facts a little bit better. Two of the three actually had a 25% minimum earn. So we were 6 weeks in. So now all of a sudden we went from being like a $250K problem. Like, it's amazing how much, like, in perspective of like, oh, we're only out for 50K right now. Like,
exactly.
oh my God, I just saved $200,000.
Right. It's called girl math, I think.
One way to, the glass half full way to look at that.
Right.
On it. And he's like, let me make some calls and see what I can do. And then one of the policies though was 100% minimum earn.
Okay.
So he calls up, and then he calls me back. And again, one of the reasons why he's such a good broker is he knows who to call and he can explain things very clearly. And he doesn't just send an email off and then have it get not answered or not answered the same way. Like, he literally got people on the phone and said, here's the deal. Here's what happened. Laid it out beautifully. I'm sure I wasn't privy to the conversation, but he probably shared, the level that he and I had worked together over the years and that our agency did together.
Yeah.
He knew he had to, cash in some chips here on it. And so he calls me back and says, good news is the 100% earn, the one that we thought we were on the full hook for. He goes, they've agreed to backdate it to the effective date. You owe nothing on that one, which was fantastic. He goes, the carrier that was, had a 25% minimum earn premium that we were going to likely owe for 3 months of policy. They've agreed to cancel it back to the effective date. So right there, he just knocked off, again, a couple $100,000 of what we owed. He goes, the third carrier that's also 25% earned, had said no. He said that the underwriter I talked to is going to take it up to his management team. He wasn't sure if that was going to happen or not. On it. And then that person called back later in the day and he's like, my manager's saying too bad, like they should have known what they're doing. And so it ended up being a $12,000 bill that was due to our agency from that. And we tried a little bit more to fight it. Share the name of the insurance company, but it was one of those where they were 100% right to do that. And maybe their management would say, these guys have got to learn a lesson so they don't do that in the future. Maybe that was their mindset, but certainly I appreciate the view of the other two carriers that were like, understood the situation, understood the relationship, and said, no harm, no foul. These guys didn't have any claims during this 6-week period. We can do this. We're going to do a favor for these folks and cancel it out, a flat cancellation on it. So we were faced with a $12,000 bill. But there's actually a good happy ending to this story as well. We went to the premium finance company that we worked with and explained the situation because these were finance policies on it. And we went back, laid out the whole situation, and that premium finance company who we had worked with for a number of years, they're our sole premium finance company. So a lot of agencies that we work with, or that would be similar to us, would work with 2 or 3 different finance companies. And they kind of play them off each other of who's going to give me, take me out to lunch the most, or who's going to give me these types of things.
Yeah.
We haven't done that. We've valued the approach that they've done for us. That company actually agreed to write down that debt and wrote it off because they're a very large company. We're not. And the rep that we work with basically went to their management, told the story, and said, "What can we do for these guys?" And they said, "We'll eat that." So they ate a $12K bill for us.
That's amazing.
On it. So came out of that certainly from a stress level and lack of sleep level, but again, if you look at it two different ways, could have been very bitter, could have been, but instead came out of very grateful for and really emphasized to me the value of the relationships, that I could call this broker up and explain the situation and not have him say, you idiot, Mike, why'd you do this or anything, but just like, hey, man, I get it. We've worked with these guys for a long time. Let me see what I can do. Him working miracles with two companies to call in those things. Also being showed, that third company that was kind of a stickler on it. Thankfully, they weren't the 100% minimum premium company in that.
Yeah.
Um, but then also having the premium finance company. So, and to me, it was one of those two where we could have just, not that we would have, but the importance of like reaching out and being like, hey, we're in a pickle right now. Like, who can help? And like the premium finance company, I had zero expectation that they were going to do that for us. But we explained the situation and they said, let me look into this. Let me see what I could do in looking to help. So, for me, it was a great lesson on learning, like, not that it wasn't so much a matter of trusting these clients. Like, I knew they could pay. They just elected to shut down their business. And so again, from a policy standpoint, that's why we say collect that money up front versus extending yourself and putting yourself on the hook. And we'll still do that for especially clients we work with for a long time and we know their pay situation, but that's a huge risk that you run when you do that. And then the importance of like that broker, that finance company. Like, do you think we've entertained a thought of switching to a different finance company over the years? So
Right.
it was 15 years ago. We've grown tremendously with them and placed way more business with them. So smart on their end, if you look at it from a overall business perspective. So the good.
Well, that was actually going to be my takeaway is, we've in the past, like, I think there's something important here, which is, going back, to my last career, which, 14 years of doing that. And like I think after 10 years, you know yourself pretty well and like how to do something. But we would have a company come in, like a vendor, right? And it's like, man, we're gonna, save you costs, or we're gonna do this or that. And like all of that's great. But, or you hire somebody. And I think this is really what I'm getting at. You hire like a new manager to come in and like look at stuff, right? And they'd immediately go through, oh, I want to like review everything and go through your list and like, okay, like I could save you guys money here and figure out how to do that better and all that, right? And it's like, it's kind of like you're introducing a new person, new set of ideas, and they probably have great ideas. But a lot of times, to have the most impact or influence on a company's like overall growth, you have to like learn like what's the real relationship. Like there's a tinting company. To this day, I will still recommend everyone go to them for their window tint, right? And the reason was pretty straightforward. They definitely, they charge probably 15% more than anyone else, but the quality of the work was always fantastic. If they made mistakes, they would come back and they literally retint the car. Like, it didn't matter. And they did a good job. And it was like, okay, yeah, I could go save 15%, or I could make 15% more margin, but it's not worth it. So I guess like what I'm trying to get after here is like, for new brokers that come in, we want the good ideas. If you're new to the company, we want your ideas. But there's also longevity of some of these relationships, and like the one you just shared with our financing company. Um, I've never heard that story, but now I'm looking at it like, okay, there's actually, because you think about finance companies like, okay, maybe this isn't like something that I want to be doing or dealing with, or maybe there's better ones out there. The reality is, if they're willing to do that and have that conversation, that's a partner. That's a partner that you can't really get rid of. And the same thing with the wholesale broker that's walking you through this stuff. I'm sorry if he was a wholesale broker or not, but your preferred partner here that was kind of cashing in some ships to get this done for you. Those are the kind of people that you're like, you become, I don't know, you become closer in a sense too, because it's like, man, they really have my back. Like, this group of people has my back. The relationship side of the business is critical. So I just thank you for sharing that. It gave me so much perspective on Falcon West even more, I guess, right? And the importance of it. And so, yeah, relationships are everything. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Oh, my pleasure. And thanks for the good partners we have. But you hit exactly on it, that these aren't vendors that we're working with. They're true partners to our business. So
yeah, 100%. I love that. Awesome. Well, I have one more thing that I want to cover, and this is for kind of our Insurance 101 segment. So if you're newer to insurance or want to refresh on a topic, this is for you. But the one that I want to ask you is on D&O insurance, right? So D&O coverage. And I know that there's different sides to it, and we could write the Wikipedia entry on it later. But the one specific question I have for you was, when the company's out there, let's say they're brand new and they're raising funds for let's say they're trying to raise capital for drilling a new oil well. I think it's an example here that I'm kind of thinking of, right?
Yep.
Go out there, just two geologists, they found a spot they want to go drill. They're going to go out, they're going to say, okay, we're going to raise $25 million. At that point, my understanding is like D&O insurance could actually come into play because they're sort of putting themselves out there and saying like, here's not necessarily a promise, but here's something that we're thinking about. Maybe I'm incorrect on that, but I wanted to ask you that question.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So if you think about a D&O policy, certain types of policies, D&O being one of those, are written on what's called a claims made basis. So it means whenever a claim is made, that's the policy that will respond. So that's different than like an occurrence basis policy, which means whenever the incident happens. So like an auto policy, you get in a car crash in 2026 and you get sued in 2027 because of the injuries that happened in that. You go to the policy that was in place when the incident occurred, which is your 2026 auto policy, versus a claims made policy like D&O. It says, hey, whenever this claim comes in, that's the policy that's going to occur, or the policies that's going to respond. However, there's a big caveat there on these claims made policies is you have something called a retroactive date. And all that means is, when does this coverage start? So that's kind of like setting your odometer to zero on it, is your retroactive date. So in the instance that you're talking about, you have someone who's doing things, right? They're raising money, which means that they're putting together a prospectus or some sort of investing information on it that will contain forecasts, will contain descriptions of because that's all forward looking, whatever's in that. They're giving that out to investors. Investors are reading that, and investors are saying, hey, seems like a pretty good deal. Seems like good people. Here's money to do what you want to do with that money. All that an investor does. So if you have a retroactive date that starts, so we'll go through this in two different scenarios, if this is helpful. So the first one that you talked about, these guys are raising some money. If they first go out and take a D&O policy out, it's going to be relatively inexpensive because they don't have a lot of assets, they don't have a lot of operations, they don't have anything going on. But the most important thing is that now starts that retroactive date. So the odometer's moving for them, that they can go back and if a future claim comes in, it'll cover activities that happen after that retroactive date. So you're absolutely right, Peter. D&O policies have something called a retroactive date. And what that means is whenever you take that policy out, so you bind coverage, put it in place, that starts your retroactive date. So now any activities that occur after the retroactive date, such as fundraising, such as giving forecasts, such as giving all these investor information on what you're going to do with that money, now that is going to be picked up by that D&O policy. Versus in a second scenario, if people go out, they do all their fundraising, they raise money, they share all this information with investors, and then they're like, okay, now we're actually going to start drilling a well or start our activities. Let's take on D&O policy now. All that prior activity is not going to be covered because that all occurred prior to the retroactive date. So D&O claims coming from investors are one of the most common areas where you have D&O claims. And what are those investors going to allege? That, your forecasts were too rosy. You said this in your prospectus and you did what, you said X, you did Y. That's the basis of these claims. And it's a terrible situation if someone has said, oh, well, I have D&O coverage now. But when did they first take out that coverage and what were they doing prior to having the coverage? Because if any of that is the basis of the claim against them, unfortunately, it's not going to be covered.
Got it. All right. Well, that answers our D&O question for the day. I'm having some microphone troubles over here, and we're at that wonderful 35-minute mark where everyone starts to tune out. So, anyways, we'll go ahead and move to close here. But thank you guys for listening to Falcon West. Mike, is there anything else that you want to mention before we close it down for the day?
No, just appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and kind of delve into some of these issues, and hopefully current employees, future employees are able to listen to this. And we'd love to hear any feedback that you have with topics you want us to address, or in the case of my daughter, who told me that my microphone didn't seem like it worked very well. One episode was her lone bit of feedback, but we'll take it all. So thank you.
Yeah, all the feedback's good. Well, that's all we have for you guys this week. We'll catch you again next week. And until then, reach out. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Falcon Forward does not provide financial or insurance advice. The following disclosure is available at falconwest.com/privacy-policy. All information provided is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We encourage you to do your own research and consult with qualified professionals regarding your specific needs. If you have specific questions about your property and casualty insurance, our contact information can be found at falconwest.com. This content expresses the views of Falcon West Insurance Brokers, Inc. as of the date indicated, and such views are subject to change without notice. Falcon West has no duty or obligation to update the information contained herein. Further, Falcon West makes no representation, and it should not be assumed that past insurance market conditions, coverage terms, or pricing are an indication of future results. This information is being made available for educational purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for insurance advice tailored to your specific circumstances. The information contained herein does not constitute and should not be construed as an offering of insurance coverage, a guarantee of coverage terms, or a binding quote in any jurisdiction. Certain information contained herein concerning insurance markets, industry trends, and risk performance is based on or derived from information provided by independent third-party sources. Falcon West Insurance Brokers, Inc. believes that the sources from which such information has been obtained are reliable. However, it cannot guarantee the accuracy of such information and has not independently verified the accuracy or completeness of such information or the assumptions on which information is based. This content, including the information contained herein, may not be copied, reproduced, republished, or posted in whole or in part in any form without the prior written consent of Falcon West Insurance Brokers, Inc. To obtain our property and casualty license information, please visit falconwest.com. Our California license number is 0616640.